live on City of Madison YouTube channel, and we'll turn it over to our president, Mr. John Gordon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Madison Redevelopment Commission meeting December the 9th. We're going to change up the order a little bit on the agenda today. We'll start with old business first. First up, monthly financial review.
Yeah. Parker Criswell from READI Financial.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. So I'm assuming everyone's gotten the chance to look through the financial plan this month as far as updates goes. A couple points just to walk through the document. Just jumping to page 6, which is jumping myself, the monthly cash balance. Just pointing out that city's not received Form 22s yet, so I do not have December revenues in there yet. However, I'll be bugging Rick quite a bit here in the short term to get those numbers once he gets that document, and then we'll get those plugged in and then let everyone know kind of how the end of the year position looks like. As far as projection goes, we received right at about $968,000 in June. I would expect somewhere more in the realm of about $700,000 for TIF collections in December. Mainly just there are certain companies just pay their full year's tax bill in June, so it's not uncommon for that amount to be larger. A couple other topics to touch on as well. Page 7, again, staying in this page here, moving to the next one, excuse me. Mayor and I have had discussions as far as capital projects, timetables, and all that. We have moved a lot into 22. A big piece that's with our plan is for conservative purposes and everything. We do assume all projects are paid with cash. Obviously, with the city's READI grant plans, and then in the case of maybe looking at studying outside funding next year, we know that's probably not 100% realistic. However, just for conservative purposes, putting on paper, so that's where all that's going to be impacting the area. Page 9, a couple more here. Page 9, showing that a couple contracts have finished up. The first one with HWC Engineering, that contract was originally $50,000, so that did come in under budget. It has been finalized now, as well as the sedan contracting for the cotton mill, that has been finalized, so those are both closed out. I'm sure you all noticed the fund transfers for this month as far as preparing for matching funds, setting those aside, and that way to make sure that there's no super large cash spend down whenever those do come needed in the next few years. Just keeping track and making sure that those are still under the RDC's eyes as far as where those are at within just simply another fund alongside the RDC's main fund. Page 10 underneath the Northwest Allocation Area Fund, you will see there are 3 matching grant prep funds. I do have fund numbers now for the 2 new ones there at the bottom, but as monies are moved over into those, again, those are still under RDC eyes, but we'll make sure that's updated, that way you guys see those as well. So those are really the big 4 updates I wanted to give you guys for this month. If there are any other questions on the plan, I'd be more than happy to answer.
And I just want to point out too, relative to the financials on page 7, what we did there was really a true up, so that you can see as we progress through the year, a lot of the projects that we had identified, and you can enlarge that a little bit if you want to. A lot of the projects that we identified either last year or earlier this year, you know, the dates on them were fluid, really dependent upon when we would get started or other sources of financing. So now that we are in the last meeting of December, we know what we did in 2021, which ones we committed to, and which ones really projected to happen in 22 and 23. For example, the commitment we made to partner with Habitat for Humanity for the affordable housing project. The trigger for that is some entitlement of the property on the hilltop where they're doing the subdivision. Another example, and that hasn't been done yet. Another example is the super overlook on Vaughn Drive. Our condition of funding there was for them to raise the other funds and get all the regulatory approvals. That project was pushed into next summer after the regatta, so that means our funding commitment pushes into 2022. So we ended up in 2021 with a beginning cash balance of a little over $2 million. We're projecting total revenues, which is comprised of our TIF revenue collections, our rental income from the Ruler property, Madison Railroad loan payback, and some interest to be a little over $1.7 million. And then that compares very favorably to $2.5 million of expenditures in 2021, leaving us a projected balance of almost $1.2 million. Our targeted balance that we want to get to is $1.5 million, which is almost 1 year's worth of collections, and that really is opportunistic. That gives us an opportunity to deal with things that weren't in the projections, or dollar amounts might change. And then we still have a need to recapitalize the commission next year, and as we get through the READI grant process, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, we'll have a more definitive idea of what that capital commitment needs to be before we go and borrow money to capitalize those particular investments. That's a little bit more background with what Parker had added for the financial projections, but we're in a really good shape, and you know, the AVs in our TIF district continue to grow, and I think we're using the monies that's generated out across the TIF district throughout the community in a really wise way. Appreciate it. And happy to answer your questions on financial projections.
Parker.
Yes, sir.
So on the page 9 on the
Yeah,
line.
we asked you to turn your mic on when you guys, just so we can get it projected. Thank you. That might help.
On page 9 on the liability side, you're showing being paid off.
Yes.
Was there any retainage on that project?
There was going to be a little bit, I assume, looking at, I'm trying to picture the last invoice in my head.
I mean, in general, if there's retainage, are you gonna present that as paid?
Yeah, I will present it as paid.
Even though it's gonna be held for.
Yeah.
What is it doing?
It's a good point.
Well, normally by the time we get to the end of the project, and we do the inspection, they'll do a final draw, which would pull out the retainage. But throughout the construction project, if there is retainage applicable, it wouldn't get the net payment. I mean, we would show the net payment.
Let me double check
On
on
the
that
draw.
number. I'm trying to picture in my head which number that is tying to. That is net of retainage, or it does include it. I'll get back with you on that one now.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
More
it's
from a
a
presentation
great point to
standpoint,
keep.
I mean, that retainage could be 6 months, a year down the road.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions from the board?
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
John, or Mr. President, before we get into the READI grant update, do you want to approve minutes from November 2nd?
Sure. Good point. So has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the November 2nd meeting? Any comments or changes?
Motion to approve.
Any second? Second. All in favor? Thank you. So next order, READI update.
So in your material, we want to give you an update, and that is last Friday, we participated in a presentation to the Indiana Economic Development Corporation as part of our Southern Indiana Regional Development Authority for our regional plan. As you know, the READI grant program is a $500 million initiative that began late spring, early summer by Governor Holcomb, and it was codified in the legislature with funding of $500 million to support accelerated economic development across the state. There were, over time, we submitted 2 plans, a downtown destination development plan and a workforce development plan, which coincidentally included a lot of activity on the hilltop of Madison. We submitted that to the Regional Development Authority, that then went through another selection process for screening and scoring. And then the Regional Development Authority compiled a plan that included the best projects from across the 5-county region. And there were around I want to say 52 to 55 projects submitted. City of Madison submitted 2 plans, but inside the 2 plans was probably about 13 projects. And they included probably 4 or 5 of our projects. And they also included a really exciting project with Hanover College, which is a veterinary tech school. But all of this culminated into a presentation last Friday that we participated in to IEDC. And if our plan is awarded the money we requested, which is approximately $85 million, we believe we can generate approximately $1 billion worth of investment over the next couple of years in our region, our 5-county region. City of Madison plan was very ambitious. We believe that we can generate $250 million worth of economic activity over the next 3 years from our plan. But what is included there, and I think you have in your package, is a placemat. And we presented this to the IEDC selection committee as a summary of our plan. Included in this summary is by the numbers, which is $1 billion worth of investment, 58,000 new residents, because a lot of this focuses on population growth. Approximately 13,000 new jobs would be created, 2,200 new housing units would be created, and the benefit just from additional economic output with that $1 billion of investment will be $662 million. So it has a dramatic impact on the region, including the city of Madison. And in the center of this map that we have, or this table, you'll see all the projects that are broken down between destinations, workforce, economic development, parks, connectors and gateways, including our gateway here by the Ohio River Bridge, and then new infrastructure, mostly water and sewer projects. The next slide is a map that shows you what our destination development plan includes. And we're giving this to you for reference. We've been talking about this for quite a few months. IEDC is going to make the awards at their meeting, I believe, on December the 17th. And we believe that we presented a very strong presentation, and the city of Madison is very well represented in the regional plan, as is Hanover College. And there's a lot of fantastic things that we're looking forward to, but part of the reason we wanted to just give you even more information is because in January, after when we reconvene in January, we'll have a lot more to talk about, because we'll know how much money was awarded by IEDC and what the region received, and then we'll describe what the next step of the process is for the money being awarded out of the region to the projects that are shovel ready to go. And we have a number of them because we've been working on an economic development plan for about 2 years. So when READI came along, we were prepared to make a presentation and take advantage of the opportunity. So we'll know more in January when the actual awards, and then as Dylan from the Wheatley Group is going to present a little bit, we're going to translate that into a new economic development plan for the Redevelopment Commission. So you'll have a working document that will really be materially working from, that will be guiding our activities and our priorities for the next year. And we'd like to share with you our video that we presented to IEDC. The city of Madison is known across the entire country for so many things. It's one of the largest contiguous historic districts. We have a beautiful 1.5-mile boardwalk on our riverfront. We have an iconic Main Street, and the environment is conducive for attracting investment.
It's the best small town I think you could live in. It's a really tight-knit community, and there's a lot of people who want to make a big difference for the people that live here and the people that will want to live here.
Madison's quality of life is good today, but we've seen that there are some items that are lacking, and that's really what our destination development projects are about.
We've broken down our development plans in a number of ways. One is We know we need to accommodate housing. We've had almost a 4% population growth just in the past 2 years.
Madison has had a housing shortage for quite some time, both Hilltop and downtown. So with READI, we're planning on adding complex in both areas, everything from higher end to affordable housing.
We have a neighborhood market that we know is so vital to the fabric of any community that has to be invested in, and READI is going to help us do that. But at the same time, we're able to lever that into a cultural arts district that we're continuing to grow and brand.
We are focused on improving the quality of life of our residents by adding everything from Bicentennial Park, adding an amphitheater, to adding lights on our bridge across the Ohio River. And then right here on Main Street, we're planning to partner with the Ohio Theater and restore that building.
Over the course of the last couple of years, there has been literally tens of millions of dollars invested on the east end of town to make the gateway more beautiful. We're going to finish that with a gateway center that is going to be a welcoming environment for when you come across into the state of Indiana. You know you've entered into something special.
Almost all of the projects that we had on our destination are shovel ready. They've already been in the works. We've already been in preparation for all of it. And then now with the READI grants, we'll be able to execute all these things that have already been in progress.
That's why we're confident that if we're awarded these READI grants, we believe that we can create almost $200 million worth of economic technology benefit over the next 3 years.
I'm most excited to show off to all of the people I know or from Indianapolis, where I'm from, just to show, like, yeah, I live in a small town, but look how freaking cool it is. And so I think once these projects are completed, the younger generation is really going to want to live here.
This project is going to accelerate the path that we've been on. And so this economic development planning that we're doing is critical for our population growth and really makes us the regional gem that we know that it's always been. We'll work on our reception a little bit going forward. That gives you just a little preview. We had 30 minutes last Friday to present our case for $85 million grant request, and then we answered questions for 20 to 30 minutes. And I think our proposal was really well received. But you know, as we collaborate across a region, that's going to benefit all counties, all 5 counties, and our connectivity to River Ridge and the things that's going on in the Louisville area. We are actually the fastest growing region in the state of Indiana. So population growth, housing, jobs, economic activity is going to be great over the course of the next 3 years. That's it on READI grant, and turn it back over to you.
Great, nice update, yeah. Very exciting, and that update video was awesome.
Thank you.
Really nice job. Next, we'll move on to new business. First is the Cub Enterprise equipment request.
Do it. How you doing?
Hello everyone, my name is,
Sorry, just touch the button there, and then Mike will turn it off for you. There you go. There we go.
hello everyone, my name is Matthew Burkhart.
I'm Chip Cox, and my name is Neil Mystery. The 3 of us are here today from MCHS. We are all 3 of us are part of Cub Industries, and today we would first off like to thank the board for your previous support and the benefits that you've given us, because our program would not be where it is right now without your support in the past. So a little background on Cub Industries for those that may not know it. It started with Cub Manufacturing back in 2015. A couple of years after that, Cub Engineering came about, and the whole purpose behind it is that it's a student-run business. It's where a idea is presented to the Cub Industries board. It is then approved, and then this idea is then given to Cub Engineering, where they will then come up, design, sketch, and put this idea onto paper. They will then take this paper and then give it to Cub Manufacturing, where they will then go out and actually create this product.
First, we're going to be talking about Cub Manufacturing. This part of Cub is mostly welding and assembling the parts that Cub Engineering has put together. There are 3 classes currently. There is Princess Manufacturing, Cub Manufacturing, which is 2 periods. Both of these classes are dual credit. Just recently, we as a Cub Industries, we have earned OSHA 10 certifications and opportunity for American Welding Society certifications. Some of the newer things we just got is a laser machine, which we're super excited about right now.
The other part of Cub Industries is Cub Engineering, and what's new with Cub Engineering is we have 3 base programs in IED, SIM, and POE, IED and POE being dual credit. There is also a 4th class, which is Cub Engineering, which is the sibling to Cub Manufacturing, to design and do all the sketching for everything they construct over there. Some new equipment that we've gotten is a 3D printer, vinyl cutter, laser engraver, and a plasma table. And we have gone hand in hand with Student Athletic Council to make products that we are selling at sporting events, as well as we have internship hosts at MPP, Arvin Sango, Super ATV, and BSG.
So this right here is just an update on some of the projects that we have currently and recently worked on through Cub Industries.
First, we're going to talk about the gates and benches we have worked on. Personally, I designed the one on the bottom left is a bike rack for a Grody to help increase uses of bikes at Grody. And also a couple of benches shown here.
The next one or the one before?
Oh, that one right there.
This
You're
one?
good. You're good. Yep. Thank you. Another thing, like I talked about, the products we're selling at sporting events, we laser engraved the cup head on tumbler cups. Yep.
So as Chip touched on earlier, this was one of our partnerships with Student Athletic Council. So we were given the idea for fundraising. So we went out and we distributed cups at the homecoming football game, and they were actually a very big sellout. Okay, so the next project is the cross-country bridge in between the junior high and high school on Madison campus. It's, for me, as being a part of cross-country, it's been very helpful, not only for the athletic department, but also for junior high students, as there's only 2 ways to get across from the junior high to the high school, and this just adds another safer way for them to get across without having to cut through the creek itself.
Next thing is the boat ramp gates that are for the boat ramp down by the river. These are an upgrade to the gates that are there now, and it's kind of, you know, give an example of the old culture mixed with the new culture of hydroplane racing.
Next is the flagpole. This is a just recently finished project. With the new baseball field coming in, we think they deserved a new pole to kind of show off how the students are also interacted with not only other students but athletes inside the school. This is also a project we are working on currently. The theater has just finished renovations at Madison High School, and we decided to add some railings to add safety for not only the crew but also the tech department, so they are safe and sound from falling or other dangers.
So a big new upgrade to Cub Industries is the Royer project, and Royer was so kind to donate a industrial laser engraver that will be used in a partnership with Royer. Here's an example of something we have made on there, and it is a student-run business, so students will actually be getting paid to be at school and run this machine for Royer and run products that they will be selling on their Amazon account.
And then a little bit more going in depth with this. So as Chip said, it is a student business. So the way it works is that Royer will give us a product to produce. We will use the laser machine that they provided for us. We will produce the product, and then we will also package it and then send it back to Royer, where they will then put it on their online Amazon marketplace, where then they will then sell it, and then we will split the profits from there.
Some other projects we've done consist of the cart for VSG, the outdoor seating for all the MCS schools, and we do all of the staff name tags. So everyone in the school with their name tags, we laser engrave those. We also have the building door signs. As you see, it's that big square thing. It has, that one is for the principal, so everyone in the office gets their title on those, and then the rest of them are door numbers with the teacher's name.
So now we would like to talk to the board about different and new equipment requests that we would like to have for our program.
First up is the commercial bin storage racks, and we are requesting 4 of those, along with the tall stainless steel storage cabinets, and we would also like the enclosed bulletin boards. All of this is to help us stay organized, and the bulletin boards will be used to post current and future projects to keep everyone up to date on what we're doing. We are also requesting 2 office chairs and 20 drafting chairs, and these will be used to make our area more comfortable, as well as maximize productivity on drafting. We would also, for safety reasons, like flammable safety cabinets to store flammable substances in case of a fire, to keep those from worsening in case of a fire, as well as 3 dry erase boards they will kind of work hand in hand with the bulletin boards to post future projects and keep everyone up to date on what we're doing.
Next, we're going to go over some lab equipment that we were requested. Right here is shown a welding kit. This welding kit does MIG, TIG, and stick welding. It is very useful to not only students to learn these, but also use it if they are going for the American Welding Society and also for their future careers. We're also asking for 4 compressed air canisters. These are 25% oxygen and 75% nitrogen. We're also asking for 4 argon compressed canisters. These are 100% argon.
We'd like to thank you guys for listening to our presentation today, and if there is any questions, we will be happy to answer them.
I guess from a vendor standpoint, I mean, are you guys using local vendors, or are you outsourcing to somebody outside the community for these items?
What exactly? I don't understand the question.
So for example, the lab equipment, are you purchasing these items from local establishments within the TIF district, or are you purchasing these items from outside the district?
I do not know the question off the top of my head, but my instructor, Mr. Herrick, is with us, and he will be happy to answer.
So my name is Derek Herrick. I am their teacher at the high school. When we source these, we did not source through local companies, but if that was something that was available, we would look into that. Most of the stuff, though, we did just source through the school's suppliers.
What is the budget for the Cub manufacturing from the school? How much is funded from the school itself?
So they have course fees every year. I did not bring those numbers with me. I would have to get those for you. But they have a pay-in that they do every year that is associated with that. I believe Super ATV has been taking over a good portion of that. That is equipment that is supposed to be directly to the students. So that is stuff that they would take home. So this type of stuff is not included in that, because that money is all things that the students would be bringing home.
Right. The question more is, we kind of talked about what's the funding mechanism for this program? I think the program is fantastic.
So it's funded fully by itself. We do have the student fees that they use to take in the material, but the other stuff is either from donations from our advisory council, or we do bring in profit from the products we make, and we try to be solely sustained on that, plus the stuff that we do send home to students. Like I said, I do not have those numbers with me today, but I can get those for you.
And the reason for them, this request outside, because it's outside the budget?
It's outside the scope of what can be used for that budget specifically, yes.
How have you bought equipment in the past?
How have we bought?
Yeah.
So we have come before, TIF before,
Okay.
and asked for equipment like that before. We've done in the past where we asked for quite a bit. Most of the equipment then, if it's not through those or donations, we have to put through, and if it's bigger, it has to be taken to the board and voted on.
So does the school have a plan to ever make this self-funding for the equipment and all the needs, so you won't have to come back to the TIF, or is it planned to continually?
The plan is not to continually. The plan is to expand this, and that's part of this Royer partnership, is getting actual production runs of things that we set that we know we're bringing in this money every single year. That hopefully in the future we will not need to ask for that anymore, because we will be completely self-sufficient and showing a profit where we can bring in new equipment.
Yeah, I just want to mention too that it is common across the state that the TIF districts support the school systems in a variety of ways, and I'm in favor of this because in the 2 years I've been on the participating in the Redevelopment Commission, I don't think we funded any material amounts, and I like to make the investment in our youth, and it is staying local. And also, there's a great learning experience that's happening here with regards to the work as well as the product and the engineering and the manufacturing. And I'm happy to see how Cub Manufacturing has evolved. It has really evolved. So good job, guys.
To also answer the question, the last time we came and presented, I believe it was 4 years ago. I think we requested about $90,000. Obviously, this time I think the package was around $31,000. So to get to that where we're self-sustained and not asking every year, or I feel like we're getting to that point. It's just taking some time. Again, we started this in 2015, so we're still fairly new. Obviously, we're getting to a point now with Royer producing for them, making some money, self-sustaining. But again, we couldn't do it without the TIF board and their partnership with
Well,
us.
the other thing I like about it too, Ms. Gasaway, is the partnerships you form with the industries in our community. And I think there was 5 or 6 that were mentioned here, either through some internship or through design or through sales. I think that's great as well.
Any other questions?
You feel like you just appeared before Shark Tank? Is that?
Great presentation, guys. Nice job. Thank you. So we need to have Mr. Mayor, we have to have a motion, or we just pay through the claim?
We haven't asked.
Well, the request, it was in there, but they didn't go over it. But you want to reiterate what the request is, guys?
Yeah, if you want to go back to those slides
the total?
I will break that down for you. I just have to be closer to the board. So the commercial bin rack storage systems, we want 4 of those, and that'll be a total of $680. And the tall storage cabinets will be, we only want 1 of those, which will be $619. We need 2 enclosed bulletin boards, and both of those together will be $836. Yeah, that's what it was. You're okay. And then the 2 office chairs will be $840 for both of those, and then 20 drafting chairs will cost around $4,200. The 1 flammable safety cabinet will be around $3,000. The dry erase boards, 3 of those for $651. And if you want to go to the next slide, if you go back 1. That is our current storage situation right now, so it could use some updating. And then if you would go back to thank you. And then the welder, 4 of those will cost $19,400. The 4 things of compressed gas will be $1,144. And oh wait, is that the compressed gas, Matthew?
Sure.
Okay, and then the other 4 of those for $1,080. So the grand total will be of that is 21, and then on the last slide, what did it say?
Total's $32,480, so we would entertain a motion.
Yeah, that plus the other.
Supporting that with, Cub Engineering with the purchase.
And also, just to answer your question about the fiscal responsibility of, we'd love to stay in town with local vendors, but we do go get 3 quotes whenever we're purchasing equipment like that, so to make sure we're using the money wisely and getting the most we can out of our money.
Also, upon getting quotes, we take into account what our advisory board members suggest as well. So we do work with our business partners that are our advisory board members to get these prices from usually the companies that they go through as their vendors.
Great, thanks for clarifying. So we get a motion to move forward and fund the Cub Manufacturing request.
I'll make that motion to support the request.
Second.
All in favor? So moved.
Record needs to reflect that I'm abstaining.
Yes, thank you guys. Nice job.
Good job, thank you guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Or one of the things that we want to do too is not only come and ask you for money all the time, but show you how we've spent it. So we thought we'd give you a quick overview of the Cotton Mill project, particularly the outside improvements, which was a very integral part of the whole Cotton Mill project.
Maybe do you want to present it?
Mindy or Nicole? Let's have Nicole. Or Mindy and Nicole. Mindy and Nicole.
Sure.
Mindy and Nicole.
Fair warning, I have not seen these slides, other than the quick glance through your packet. But if Alyssa, if you'll go to the next one. So just a before and after, you can see they did a ton of site work, a ton of work on the exterior of the building, including sidewalks that we helped pay for and put in. So really improvements include storm sewer, sidewalks, ADA, compliant ramps. We also worked on the water main along St. Michael's Street and additional paving, which helped really make that corridor look great. I think the kind of pictures speak 1,000 words, and you can see there kind of the broke up picture of the final completed project. But it's definitely one that is a big investment in our community. They put in a lot of work and a lot of funds themselves, but I know they appreciate the city's participation.
Any questions on that? I would just only reiterate that As we got into that, sometimes the scope of work expands, and that one expanded a little bit because it's hard to do just half of St. Michael's and then leave the other half unpaved after it's been dug up quite a bit. But if you could go back to the aerial of the very first slide, or that one right there, you'll see just how dramatic the difference is on that property. And hopefully everybody here has had an opportunity to be at Cotton Hill and perhaps even spend the night there or entertain some guests there. But it's a great asset for the city of Madison, particularly for the riverfront.
And if you haven't been in, the lobby is open to the public. I believe their bar is open Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays. So definitely recommend if you haven't been in there, just go in and kind of experience the atmosphere because it's not like any other beer field.
Mr. Mayor, will the city be doing any economic impact study? Will we be able to capture anything that this improvement has done in like some real figures?
There weren't any plans to do that other than it's already having a dramatic impact on innkeeper tax collection. In fact, Councilman Chatham is here. He's on the Jefferson County Board of Tourism. I'd like to put him on the spot and invite him to talk about the Board of Tourism and his opinion on the Cotton Hill, particularly what's happening with the innkeeper's tax.
So,
is that okay, Mr. President? Okay.
I don't have any data with me other than to show. So our November collections was a record year that we've been tracking for the last 15 years. So we already were selling out before the Fairfield was built and up and running. So now that we're seeing the stays there, the only thing it can do is go up. So we are seeing an increase in that tax. The year to date is higher this year than the last 10 or 12 years as well. So the only thing we can relate that to is we've got an additional 85 rooms available for rent. So with that and some additional camping things that have been going on, that has to be the direct impact. But the Board of Tourism has made an investment into the economic impact calculator and the STR data that will provide that information to us with a little more clarity and objectiveness.
That particular project had, thank you, Councilman,
Sure.
I appreciate it, had dramatic impact because not only did we have, it was a multi-million-dollar investment, but the jobs that it created, particularly at a time where we needed them the most, which was during COVID, because they were under construction with some disruption, but never shut down construction even during COVID. So it actually, construction jobs are leading it, really helped us lead it out of a down economy, and that was no difference here because they employed dozens of trades, and you can see the outcome here, which is a beautiful investment for the community.
Great, thank you.
Next up, oh, go ahead.
Oh, you.
Oh, I was going to say we were going to invite Nicole back up to talk about Clifty Drive right-of-way purchases, but maybe Nicole Nicole and Mindy give an overview, or Nathan give an overview of the project.
Yeah, I'll give just a brief overview and then I'll turn it over to Nathan, who's the engineer on the project, who can go over more details. But this is our Clifty Drive project. We're working on sidewalks on primarily the south side from Wilson to Michigan, and then a small section of sidewalks on the north side. This is an NDOT project, which the city has to match 20% of the funding. So before you are a list of right-of-ways that we need to temporarily acquire in order to build that sidewalk.
So my name's Nathan Fry. I'm with Jacoby Susan Lance. We're the design firm. These are the appraisals for 8 of the 14 parcels that are required to build out the sidewalks and redo the driveway approaches into these businesses along State Route 62. All 8 of these are temporary takes, so we'll take the property, project will be built, and then that will be released back to the property owners. So this is just part of the process of getting that project done. And so once the appraisals are approved, these 8 parcels will move into the buying process.
Nicole, you want to reiterate what the request is? Yes. Please.
So we're requesting the redevelopment commission give us approval to sign these appraisal documents for these 8 parcels. The mayor, are giving the mayor authorization to sign them to move into the buying process.
Is there any, do we have to actually pay that now, or is that paid later when the construction starts?
You don't pay that right now.
Okay.
This will authorize, well, it won't authorize the payment. This authorizes the buyer to make the offer. And then, the city will have to, cut checks in this amount for each parcel. I think the total amount here is just under $8,000 for all 8 parcels.
So what we need is a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into execution of a document called Statement of the Basis for Just Compensation, which is establishing the fair market value for the right-of-way for the Clifty Drive pedestrian improvement project.
That is correct, yes.
Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you,
Approved.
Thank you.
We like Nicole so much, we'd like to invite her back up here. Commission, a few months ago, on the heels of what I think was a really informative and successful study that we engaged with HWC to create a sidewalk inventory for us and an asset management plan, including incorporating a new rating system that had never been done before. We're actually putting that sidewalk asset management plan into practice as we speak, relative to our street and sidewalk asset management planning. But a few months ago, we also engaged HWC to help us address what our parking needs are in downtown Madison. And so what we'd like to do is just share with you some preliminary findings. We're still working on some information and receiving and going back and forth with how to digest this information with HWC, and then we'll be here in January with a final report and recommendations. But we wanted to present this information to you first because you're financing this important study. As you know, tourism and local commerce, we have a lot of that throughout the course of a week and a weekend in downtown Madison, so we thought it was important to really analyze what our supply and demand would be for parking and help steer us in the right direction of what level of investment or policy changes we needed to make to more effectively manage our parking inventory.
So let's
set that up, okay, Nicole?
Yep, if you go to the next slide. So HWC through a drone was here for 3 days over the course of 2 weekends, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and flew the entire area. Our study area was 3rd to 1st Street between Broadway and East Street. That's the area we kind of main corridor we're looking at. They collected the data every hour between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. At that time, 7 p.m. was too dark to fly through, but they inventoried that area. It's 1,603 total spots, including 636 off-street spaces, and then the remainder are on-street spaces. So this slide shows that kind of study area, what they looked at. If you go to the next slide, they observed that on Thursday the peak hour was at noon, with 48.8% of all of our spaces, both on-street and off-street, occupied. On Friday it was the same time with 50.3% occupied, and then Saturday the peak hour was at 3 p.m. with 53.1% occupied.
Can I pause you there for just a second? Go back one slide. So that's the corridor. We got together, we met with them, we tried to figure out what our goals were with this study. And we know that we can't evaluate the entire downtown. It's not needed to evaluate the entire downtown. But we decided this was the corridor. And the data collection on this area was very expensive, which is why we had to have a defined area. And as Nicole said, it is that corridor from Walnut Street to Broadway and from 3rd down to 1st Street. So that might give you a bit of a visual. We did not count Carrie's house, because that would be, we didn't count the garage at Carrie's house. But when we talk with people across the community about this, we ask them, how many parking spaces do you think is in that area? Most of them would think 300, 400, 500. 1,603 parking spots are in that corridor. So then we started looking at what is our capacity, how much is it used? And that's where we went to the next slide, which is even in peak times, on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we're barely using 50% of our inventory. And the relevance there is, it doesn't mean that you always have a parking spot in front of where you want to park, right? But what you'll see in January when we look at it in a much more detailed way, we can tell you exactly where the peak parking was and how close to the peak parking was there available parking. And in all instances, there was parking generally adjacent to an area that had the highest demand. For example, the Main Street parking lot right here. Always in those time frames, very heavily utilized, but lots of on-street parking right around the parking lot. So what we are really trying to figure out is, do we need to make a multi-million-dollar investment in a parking structure? So far, the data is telling us that we don't. But can we better manage the inventory that we have? Absolutely, and that's what we're now looking at, which is how do we manage the inventory that we have? So, would you go to another slide?
Yep, so if you continue, we broke the corridor up into 4 different kinds of areas. The first one is around the courthouse, Main to 2nd Street, Jefferson to Walnut. There's 127 total spaces in that area. The highest use was on Thursday at 11 to noon, with 56.7 of those spaces used, percent of those spaces used. So you can kind of see the trend in that area. It's higher in certain times, certain days, and then it drops off. Go to the next slide. Our Main Street parking on street is similar. There's 130 total spaces between Broadway and Walnut Street just on Main Street. Use on Main Street's a little higher than that courthouse core. On Thursday, 67.7% of all the spaces are used, so you'll see a higher projection there. Our central core was Main and 2nd Street between West and Mulberry Street. There's 75 spaces in this area. Again, these are just on-street parking. But this area is really the highest used area. On Saturday, we actually had over 100%. We're not sure quite how that works. Maybe some golf carts, perhaps, or people parked over the line. But that area is definitely higher used than most.
I think on that Saturday in that core, there was the Madison Area Arts Alliance was doing the mural opening. We had some things happening along that corridor, some open houses. There was a lot of activity on that Saturday in that corridor.
And having that parking lot just shows what that corridor could be if all those businesses, business fronts are open and used for operation versus what they are now. And then if you go on to the last one is the Mulberry Street parking. Between
Broadway Street?
Broadway,
Yeah.
sorry, yes. Between Main and 1st Street, there's 79 total spaces there. Again, Saturday's the busiest day at 77.2%. So you can see that a good portion of our on-street parking is utilized. If you go to the next slide, they gave kind of some key observations, one of which I just mentioned. But one of the things that they said was that while some of these spaces are used, there's other spots that are underutilized, such as the Jefferson Street parking lot and some off-street parking just a block south of where our heaviest areas are.
Jefferson Street parking lot's our largest parking lot, and it's the most underutilized.
And then that last slide just continues with those key observations. There really is availability in downtown is just about the capacity of visitors and how we manage those spaces.
So what we'll do is we'll take these, the data and the observations, we'll work back with the engineers and really come up with some action items to address where we are getting close to capacity, primarily in the central core, and it can be a range of things, and that's what we're exploring.
So I think Nicole, I think you bring up a good question or point. As the downtown fills out and then vacant buildings become filled or used, especially with where we want to go with the Madison music movement, how does this study coincide with that, the planned use that we want for the downtown area? Will we be able to support more open businesses that are bringing in customers instead of maybe built, offices or some space that's not being used?
Based on the observations I'm seeing here, is that if we manage the inventory correctly, we can accommodate that additional growth of businesses in those corridors. It may mean you have to walk a half a block or a little bit, but it is certainly giving us the conclusion that a parking structure isn't needed. That parking structure could cost $4 to $5 million. So now we got to figure out, okay, if we're not going to build a parking structure, how do we get people to where they should be, where parking is available? We have zero directional signage basically for parking. So particularly if a visitor comes to our community and they drive into the area, they see a lot full, they don't know the community well enough to know where to go. There's a lot of options that we're going to be exploring and to help manage the inventory better. But so far the data is saying we have capacity of inventory, but we are lacking relative to our management and directional signage for that inventory.
This is the first time we've ever done a study, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. More to come. And next up on the agenda is board appointments. I believe I've spoken to each of you. I want to thank each of you for agreeing to serve another term. And at the first order of business at the January meeting will be for the commission to select its board president. I think that the structure, the membership, John as the president has worked great. You guys have been fantastic advocates of things that we are trying to accomplish across the community. But I want to personally thank you for serving the community and working so closely with the mayor's office. And we'll reconvene in January, and that next meeting will be January the 4th. But yeah, we're still on the agenda. Before we get into city matters and updates, we'll come back to the top of the agenda, which is claims approval, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So we have claims in front of us. You guys have seen some of these, but total is $762,595.73. Biggest portion of that, as Parker was saying, is moving money over into the matching funds that we already agreed to. So can we get a motion to approve the claims as submitted?
So moved.
Take a second.
Second.
All in favor? Approved.
Thank you.
So we'll go back to city.
Yeah, so city updates, I won't talk about a lot, but want to mention that want to introduce Dylan Fisher, who is here with the Wheatley Group. They're our developer consultants, and I'd like to maybe have him share with you what our plans are in the first quarter with regard to putting together a more comprehensive economic development plan and work plan for the board, so we can start working from that and prioritize it.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for allowing us to help you all this year in the absence of the formal economic development director. I've been working with Mayor and Alyssa since about July of this year. READI obviously took a lot of that bandwidth and some of his projects and moving them along. READI became the highlight. But some of the projects that we have been working on with Mayor and his staff is the Hilltop Plaza project, the grocery store, as well as the Madison Cole property, and then some of the READI support. And so what he and I have been talking about in the proposal for this coming month, as well as early into January, is my company and firm, our team will be working with them directly to take your all's 5-year capital, the financial report the partner presented earlier, kind of showing what your allocated expenditures are coming forward, turning that into an allocated action plan for 2022, as well as 2023. So looking at how those projects come about and actually become feasible and reach fruition, identifying specific projects, but also major milestones. We have been doing that directly for the projects that he's had us involved in, that we've been doing and have been updating that monthly. It will become a work plan that will be more transparent for you all, but also for the staff to understand what needs to occur, which within each month. Those plans are kind of broken down on a quarterly basis, and then where monthly tasks and duties are available, then that monthly allocation will be provided as well. So it will align with what you've set out as an organization or as a board to accomplish in 22, but also 23, and show that progress monthly. Any other questions?
I would just reiterate that I think the work plan will allow us to prioritize and have a lot of focus on intentional outcomes, and it's really comprehensive. It's things we've already been working on, and it's things that generally have been in the redevelopment commission's economic development outline for several years in a very general way. You can see the progress we've made in improving the financial information, and that's really kind of guided our priorities for the most part. But we're talking about housing, infrastructure, industrial expansion, quality of life projects, parks, a whole host of things that we believe that codifying it into a more thorough work plan product will help us communicate better and also accomplish the results that we want to accomplish. So that's something that we think that we'll have ready by the February meeting.
Yeah, we'll have a draft in January and the February meeting for you all to review. The other thing we'll do is we'll kind of apply some like best practices and practical pointers based upon our experience working with other communities and across the state, how to potentially bring in additional investment or also outside resources that are already on the table, but where to look for those. So it'll be in-depth from not just task orientation, but also additional resources that you all may want to consider down the road.
Right, and I would just reiterate on that, which is the point here is how do we leverage our funds? How do we take $2 million, for example, and make it $20 million? Spread it so that it creates $20 to $50 million worth of economic benefit. That's what READI does for us, is that allows us to put in match, receive state match, also go out there and seek private investment capital so that we can really, really accelerate the economic investment that's going on across our community. We've been laying a lot of groundwork, honestly, for the last 2 years with the studies, with the planning we've been doing, and the next 3 years are going to be pretty exciting.
Any questions for me before I step away?
Great, looking forward to hearing and seeing the plan.
Great, good deal. Thank you all very much.
Dylan, come back with you.
Being no other matters on the agenda, next meeting is January 4th, 2022, as the mayor said. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, Elizabeth. I kind of put you on the spot.
Yeah, thanks.
You know what? You're always rising to the